As loved as almost all Disney movies are, not all of them were a success when they were first released. There are quite a few that were real flops. Let's look at 10 beloved animated Disney movies that bombed at the box office. Starting with Pinocchio. Pinocchio came after Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and was a big step up for Disney, as it was only their second feature. The movie was an adaptation of the book by Carlo Collodi and followed the story of a boy who dreams of becoming a real boy. With the help of his conscience, which takes the form of the cricket named Jiminy Cricket, Pinocchio tries to navigate the world and avoid trouble while at the same time learning big life lessons about being honest, brave, and unselfish. And while many still love Pinocchio for its story, not to mention its innovative animation techniques for the time, and how it's filled with lots of lovable and memorable characters, the movie was an absolute disaster upon its release. Unfortunately, Pinocchio was released in 1940 when World War II broke out, effectively cutting off the overseas market. The movie ended up making $1.6 million against a $2.6 million budget. Next, Fantasia. Snow White made Disney famous, motivating Walt Disney to push his animators to see what they could accomplish. The highest concept they could come up with was merging Disney animation with classical music. The result was Fantasia, released in 1940 and a bit mixed. It varied from the detailed hero stories and villains to abstract shapes and dance, all in time with the music. Sadly, several factors led to Fantasia's box office demise. The costs of setting up the Fantasound technology were enormous, the roadshow distribution expensive, the concept new and high, and then World War II. Ultimately, Fantasia could barely meet its $2.2 million production costs, and its failure dashed Walt's dreams of trying the concept again. Luckily, Fantasia survived the erosion of time and is now one of Disney's most beloved movies. Following, Alice in Wonderland. When World War II was all said and done, and the good times returned during the 50s, Disney started work on the adaptation of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. It's the story of a young girl named Alice who follows a rabbit down a rabbit hole to ask where it's going, and ends up having numerous strange encounters with things like talking flowers, a dodo leading a caucus race, and a magical Cheshire cat. Disney led some of his top animators to bring each creature alive, resulting in a beautiful mosaic of different animation styles. But Alice was a huge disappointment, only making $2.1 million on a $3 million budget upon its release in 1951. Disney reportedly even disowned the movie, saying it lacked heart due to the animators trying to one-up each other. And now, Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty tells the story of Aurora, a newborn princess who gets cursed by the evil Maleficent. Maleficent says that, upon her 16th birthday, she will prick her finger on a spinning wheel and die. When raising the princess as a peasant in the woods to avert the catastrophe fails, 3 good fairies change the curse to put her and her nation into a lifeless sleep. Sleeping Beauty was Disney's most expensive movie at the time, costing $6 million. But it only made back $5.3 million upon its release. It forced Disney to switch back to Xerox technology to speed up the animation process and cut costs. And now, The Black Cauldron. In The Black Cauldron, a pig keeper named Taran has to protect a pig who can see into the future. But when Taran loses the pig to the minions of the Horned King, who want to use her to find an artifact called the Black Cauldron, he has to find the cauldron before the Horned King. If he fails, the Horned King will be able to raise an army of the undead. Aside from the prominent darker theme that is unusual for Disney, especially in 1985, The Black Cauldron also suffered from studio meddling, which is why it ultimately failed to make back even half of its $44 million budget. It was so bad that even the Care Bears movie grossed more domestically. While the film has since gathered a small cult following for its art style and dark imagery, The Black Cauldron was a massive flop for Disney. Don't go anywhere just yet. We've got more animated Disney movies that are bombed at the box office in store for you. Can you imagine that Hercules didn't do nearly as well as hoped when it was released? Or did Treasure Planet lose the fight to another hugely popular movie? Make sure to keep watching to find out more. First up, The Rescuers Down Under. The Rescuers Down Under was released in 1990 and followed the story of a young boy named Cody who rescues a golden eagle named Marahoot, who flies the boy to its nest in gratitude. But on his way home, he is captured by a poacher that is hunting the eagle. Luckily for Cody, a mouse witnesses the capture and sends a message to the Rescue Aid Society so they can rescue him. Well, the production costs of The Rescuers Down Under were never made public, it was considered a failure when it earned $27.6 million domestically. The movie was released the same week as Home Alone, so Disney decided to cut their losses and pulled the advertising for The Rescuers Down Under. This is sad because the movie has a fun villain performance from George C. Scott and beautiful aerial scenes. Next, Hercules. John Musker and Ron Clements decided it was high time to work on their passion project after the success of Aladdin and The Little Mermaid, but they had to make one more commercially viable project before they were allowed to touch Treasure Planet. This led them to the story of Hercules, who was born mortal because of Hades, the god of the underworld. Hercules has to become a true hero to regain his divinity. Hercules had a budget of $85 million and ended up grossing $100 million on its release in 1997. Well loved by many today, the movie suffered from its unfocused nature, being a mix of whatever was popular at the time, but mainly its gospel-inspired songs and the splendid performance of James Wood as Hades earned it a dedicated fan base in later times. Next up, Atlantis, the Lost Empire. Atlantis, the Lost Empire follows Milo, an underappreciated scholar who believes it's possible to find the lost city of Atlantis. When a friend of his father approaches him with a journal containing a map of the lost civilization and a crew ready to pilot a high-tech submarine, Milo joins the expedition as their Atlantis expert, but nothing could have prepared them for what they ended up finding. Atlantis is a gorgeous movie, but it was released in 2001 when it had to compete with Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, and Shrek. Disney didn't stand a chance at the box office, and the movie only made $186 million domestically against a $120 million budget. Fortunately, Atlantis is deeply loved by many to this day, but it was still a bit of a miss for Disney. And now, Treasure Planet. In Treasure Planet, Jim Hawkins discovers a map that leads him to the treasure of the galaxy's greatest pirate when a dying alien lands at the Benbow Inn. Jim is helped out by a family friend to hire a ship and crew to find it, with Jim serving as cabin boy, serving the ship's cook. But what Jim doesn't know is that Silver and the crew have plans to take over the boat and claim the treasure for themselves. The movie is adored for Jim's arc and the father-son bond between Silver and him. And thinking they had learned their lesson, Disney released Treasure Planet in December of 2002, so it wouldn't have to compete with Lilo and Stitch. Sadly, this meant Treasure Planet was destroyed by Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Moreover, they did an abysmal job with the marketing campaign, almost as if they wanted Treasure Planet to fail anyway. And last but not least, Meet the Robinsons. Meet the Robinsons came out in 2007 and follows the story of Lewis, a child genius trying to find his mother, who left him as a baby. To do this, he builds a machine that can tap into his most profound memories, which he enters into his school science fair. Unfortunately, a man from the future wants to use his invention for success. The movie went through many rewrites when Pixar's John Lasseter took over production, resulting in a $150 million budget. Thanks to its emotional core and heartfelt ending, it managed to make back $169 million and a cult following. The movie also includes a full inspirational quote from Walt Disney himself. Around here, however, we don't look backward for very long. We keep moving forward, opening up new doors and doing new things, and curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. And that's it. Which one of these did you least expect to be a box office failure? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for watching.